Happy New Year, Mom. Now, please leave. Those were the exact words that came out of my son's mouth before he slammed the door in my face. The thud echoed through the entire hallway. I stood there, suitcase in hand, unable to move. I had traveled 8 hours on a Greyhound bus to be with him for New Year's, and he had just kicked me out like I was a total stranger. My name is Martha Miller. I'm 60 years old, and this is the night that changed my life forever. I still remember the chill I felt in that hallway. It wasn't just the winter cold of the city, it was the cold of rejection, of abandonment, the realization that your own son can look at you like you're an embarrassment. I had been planning this trip for months. Tyler had been living in Chicago for 5 years. He had married Brittany, a woman who never spoke more than 3 words to me at a time. But I didn't want trouble. I just wanted to spend New Year's Eve with my son, to see his face, to hug him, to remind him that his mother still existed. When I arrived at his upscale condo building that afternoon on December 31st, I was exhausted but happy. I brought apple pies that I had baked with my own 2 hands, Tyler's favorite since he was a little boy. Pies made with the kind of love only a mother can give. I rang the bell. I heard footsteps. The door opened just a few inches. It was him, my Tyler, but his eyes. His eyes were those of someone who didn't recognize me. Mom? What are you doing here? I came to spend New Year's with you, honey. I called you last week, remember? He looked back over his shoulder. I heard Brittany's voice from inside. Tyler, who is it? It's my mom, he replied, without opening the door any wider. There was a silence that lasted barely 3 seconds, but to me, it felt like an eternity. Then I heard Brittany's heels clicking on the hardwood floor as she approached. She appeared beside him, looking me up and down. Her face was pure disdain. You didn't tell us you were coming, she said with a fake, tight smile. I did. I talked to Tyler last Monday. Tyler looked away. Mom, it's not a good time. We have plans. Plans, son? It's New Year's. I thought we could be together. Brittany crossed her arms. Martha, we have a reservation at a very exclusive gala downtown. You can't just show up unannounced like this. She spoke as if I were a problem, a nuisance. I just want to be with you for a little while. I don't need to go to any fancy dinner. I can stay here, wait for you, or I can leave early tomorrow. Tyler sighed. He looked at me with eyes that used to be full of love but now only showed discomfort. Mom, seriously, it's not a good time. Tyler, I'm your mother. I traveled 8 hours to see you. Well, you should have checked first, Brittany interrupted. We can't just change our plans at the last minute. I felt something break inside me, but I tried to stay calm. Fine, I understand. Can I at least come in for a glass of water? I'm very tired from the trip. Brittany looked at Tyler. He shook his head. It's better if you don't, Mom. The place is a mess. A mess. I caught a glimpse behind them. The living room was impeccable. It looked like a magazine spread. There were fresh lilies on the table, crystal glasses set out, everything ready for a celebration. A celebration I was not a part of. Son, please. Mom. I told you. It's not a good time. And then Brittany smiled. A cold, calculated smile. Martha, maybe you can come back another time when you've given us more notice. Today, we really can't accommodate you. Accommodate me, as if I were an unwelcome guest, not the woman who gave birth to Tyler, the woman who raised him alone after his father walked out on us, the woman who worked double shifts for years so he could go to college. I looked at my son, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to remember everything we had been through together, but he just looked down at his shoes. Sorry, Mom. Happy New Year. And he closed the door. I stood there facing that locked door, hearing the deadbolt click into place. I heard their voices fading away. I heard a laugh, Brittany's laugh. For the first time in many years, I felt completely alone in the world. I took my suitcase, walked slowly down the stairs, and left the building. Outside, it was getting dark. The streets were starting to fill with happy people carrying shopping bags and bottles of champagne, getting ready to celebrate. I had nowhere to go. I didn't know anyone in this city. The last bus back to my small town had left an hour ago. I walked aimlessly, my legs trembling. I didn't know if it was the cold or the sadness, probably both. I reached a public square, a small park with a bench under a bare oak tree. I sat down, opened my bag, took out the apple pies I had baked with so much love, looked at them, and cried. I cried silently because I didn't want the people passing by to see me falling apart. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much, don't we? Have you ever been let down by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to hear from you. The night wore on, and the frost became more intense. I was still there on that bench, not knowing what to do or what to feel. And then I saw something that would change everything. Across the square, a figure was moving slowly. An elderly woman was walking barefoot, her feet, swollen and dirty, brushed against the cold pavement with every step. She wore an old, tattered dress and was shivering violently. People passed her by without a glance, as if she were invisible. But I saw her clearly, and something inside me, despite my own pain, made me get up from that bench. Before I tell you what happened that night with that old woman, you need to understand who I was before that moment. My name is Martha Miller. I was born in a small town in Georgia, where everyone knows each other and doors are never locked. I grew up with the smell of fresh biscuits and the sound of church bells marking every hour of the day. I married young. I was only 20 when I met Robert, Tyler's father. He was a handsome, hard-working man with strong hands and soft words. We got married in June of 1983. I remember that day like it was yesterday, my simple white dress, the wildflowers my mother tucked into my hair, the way Robert looked at me as I walked down the aisle. I thought it would be forever. Tyler was born a year later, in April of 1984. He was the most beautiful baby I had ever seen. He had his father's eyes and my small nose. He rarely cried and smiled a lot. From day one, I knew that boy was my reason for living. Robert worked in construction. I stayed home, taking care of Tyler, cooking, cleaning, waiting for my husband to come home every evening. We were poor, yes, but we were happy, or at least I thought we were. The first few years were good. Robert played with Tyler in the backyard after work. He'd put him on his shoulders and teach him the names of the birds: blue jay, cardinal, sparrow. But things change. People change. When Tyler turned 5, Robert started coming home late. He smelled of beer, and sometimes of perfume that wasn't mine. I asked questions. He got angry. He shouted at me, telling me I was a boring woman, without ambition, without beauty. One November morning in 1990, I woke up and Robert was gone. His clothes were missing from the closet. His toothbrush was gone from the bathroom. On the kitchen table there was a crumpled note. "I can't do this life anymore. Sorry." That was it. 6 words. 35 years of my life, reduced to 6 words on a dirty piece of paper. Tyler asked about his father for months. "Where's Dad, Mommy?" "He went to work far away, honey, but he'll be back soon." I lied. Robert never came back. He never called. He never asked about his son. He simply vanished as if we had never existed. I was left alone with a 5-year-old boy and not a cent in my pocket. I had to learn to survive. I got a job at a local laundromat. I woke up at 5 a.m., left Tyler with my mother, and worked until 7 p.m. My hands cracked from the soap and hot water. My back ached from leaning over the machines, but I didn't care. I did it for my son. Tyler grew up healthy and smart. He was the top student in his class. His teachers told me he had a brilliant future, that he could go far if he studied. I clung to that hope. I worked more. I saved every dollar. Sometimes I didn't eat so he could have a new notebook. Sometimes I wore old, mended clothes so he could have shoes without holes. When Tyler finished high school, I cried with pride. When he got a scholarship to study business administration at a prestigious university in the city, I felt like I had touched the sky. "Mom, I'm going to make you proud," he told me the day he left. "Everything you did for me, I'm going to pay you back 10 times over." I hugged him, kissed his forehead, and gave him my blessing. "Just be happy, son. That's all I need." The first few years in the city were good. Tyler called me every week. He told me about his classes, his friends, his dreams. I sent him money when I could, and pies when he missed home cooking. He graduated with honors in 2006. I traveled for his graduation. I sat in the very back row of the auditorium in my best dress, crying tears of joy as he walked across the stage to get his diploma. That day, he told me, "Mom, this is for you. Everything I am is because of you." And I felt like every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every pain had been worth it. But then Tyler got a good job at a major firm. He started making money, a lot of money, more than I had seen in my entire life, and the calls started to get further apart. Once a week turned into once every 2 weeks, then once a month, then almost never. In 2018, Tyler called to tell me he had gotten married. Married. And why didn't you tell me, son? I would have wanted to be there. It was something small, Mom, very private. Just the two of us, and the judge. His wife's name was Brittany. She came from a wealthy family. She had gone to private schools and spoke 3 languages. She wore brands I couldn't even pronounce. I met her only once when I went to visit them 6 months after the wedding. She greeted me with a polite nod, the way you greet a distant acquaintance, not your husband's mother. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Miller," she said with a perfect, cold smile. Mrs. Miller, not Mom, not even Martha, Mrs. Miller, as if I were a stranger. During that visit, which lasted only 3 days, I noticed things. Brittany never let me in the kitchen. She said she had already cooked, not to worry, but I wanted to cook for my son. I wanted to make him his favorite meals. Tyler didn't insist either. He just smiled and said, "It's okay, Mom. Just rest. You've worked hard enough in your life." But I didn't want to rest. I wanted to be useful. I wanted to feel like I still had a place in my son's life. Before I left, I tried to give Tyler $500, everything I had saved that year. "Here, son, buy something you need." He looked at the money, then at Brittany. She smirked. "Mom, we make plenty of money. You don't need to give us anything. But I want to. Please, take it." Tyler took it, but I saw the shame in his eyes, shame that his wealthy wife was seeing his poor mother give him money. I went back to my small town with a heavy heart. Something had changed in my son. He wasn't the boy who hugged me tight anymore. He wasn't the young man who called to tell me his dreams. He was someone else, a person I no longer recognized. The following years were hard. Calls were rare, visits non-existent. I tried not to bother them. I didn't want to be the overbearing mother-in-law, the intrusive parent. But I missed my son. I missed his voice, his laugh. And then December of 2025 came. I decided I wouldn't spend another New Year's alone. I decided that even if Tyler didn't invite me, I would go see him just to hug him, to remind him his mother was still there. I baked his favorite pies, bought my bus ticket, and traveled those long 8 hours with hope in my heart. I never imagined he would slam the door in my face. As I tell you this, I wonder where you are listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. I want to know I'm not alone in this. Now, I go back to that New Year's Eve night, to that park bench, to that barefoot old woman who would change my life forever. Because sometimes, when all seems lost, the universe sends you a sign. That old woman was walking slowly through the square. Her bare feet left small, damp marks on the cold pavement. I watched her from my bench, pies still in my lap, tears still drying on my cheeks. People passed her without looking. Some avoided her with disgust. A young couple crossed the street when they saw her coming. A man in a suit yelled at her, "Get out of the way, lady." She didn't answer. She just kept walking, shivering. I felt a strange sensation in my chest, a mix of sadness and rage. How could people be so cruel? How could they ignore someone who clearly needed help? And then I remembered I had been ignored that night too. My own son had closed the door on me, treated me like I was invisible. Maybe that's why I could see her, because I also knew what it was like to be invisible. I got up from the bench. My legs were still shaking, but I walked toward her. When I got to her side, I could see her better. Her hair was white, tangled, and dirty. Her face was wrinkled by years and suffering. Her eyes, though tired, had something I can't explain, a kind of light, a wisdom. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said softly. She stopped and looked at me. Our eyes met. "Yes, dear?" Her voice was weak but kind. "It's freezing out. Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" She smiled a sad smile. "No, dear, I don't. But don't worry, I'm used to it." Used to it. That word broke my heart. I looked at her feet. They were swollen, covered in calluses and sores. I couldn't imagine the pain of walking. "Wait here a moment, please." I ran back to my bench, opened my suitcase, and pulled out my thickest sweater, the one I had brought for the city cold. I also took out my comfortable walking shoes. They weren't much, but at least they'd protect her from the frozen pavement. I went back to her. "Here, ma'am, please put these on." I handed her the sweater and the shoes. She looked at me, shocked. "No, dear, I can't accept this. You're cold too. I'm fine. Please, take them. I insisted until she took the sweater. She put it on slowly with trembling hands, then sat on the edge of a planter to put on the shoes. When she stood back up, her eyes were wet. God bless you, dear. Few people even look at me. What's your name, ma'am? She hesitated for a moment. You can call me Marilyn. Nice to meet you, Marilyn. I'm Martha. We stood there in the middle of the square while people kept rushing past us, getting ready to celebrate. Fireworks were beginning to go off in the distance. It was less than 2 hours until midnight. And what are you doing here alone, Martha? Marilyn asked. A woman like you should be with her family. I felt a lump in my throat. My family. My family doesn't want me around tonight. Marilyn nodded with understanding, as if she knew exactly what I was talking about. Children sometimes forget where they came from, she said softly. They go out into the world and get ashamed of their roots. Do you have children too? Her gaze turned mournful. I had a daughter. She died 15 years ago. Cancer. I've been alone ever since. I'm so sorry. That's life, dear. Some go, some stay, and you learn to keep moving. We sat together on the bench. I opened the container with the pies. Are you hungry, Marilyn? Her eyes lit up. I haven't eaten since this morning. Then we'll eat together. I made these pies for my son, but, well, he didn't want them. I sliced the pie. The smell of cinnamon and baked apples filled the cold air. Marilyn took the first bite and closed her eyes. It's been years since I tasted anything this delicious, she said with a broken voice. Thank you, Martha. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. We ate in silence for a few minutes. Families laughed as they walked by, carrying bags, hurrying to get home before the ball dropped. You know something, Martha, Marilyn said suddenly. I've been walking these streets for 5 years. Since I lost my home, I've seen thousands of people pass me by. Do you know how many have stopped to ask if I need anything? How many? 3. You are the third. Only 3 people in 5 years. Sadness washed over me. People are afraid, Marilyn continued. Afraid to see poverty, afraid to see suffering. Because if they see it, they have to admit that they could be in my place one day. But you aren't scary, Marilyn. You just need help. Ah, dear, what a noble soul you have. That's why I'm sure something good is going to happen to you. Life always rewards good people. I didn't believe her. At that moment, sitting on that frozen bench after being rejected by my own son, I didn't believe life rewarded anything. But I said nothing. I just kept eating my pie, sharing that moment with a stranger who strangely felt more like family than my own blood. We finished eating. I put the remaining pie back in my bag. I thought maybe tomorrow I could sell it to get enough money for a bus ticket back. Martha, do you have a place to sleep tonight? Marilyn asked. No. The last bus left, and I don't have money for a hotel. I know a shelter near here, for the homeless. It's not fancy, but at least you'll be under a roof. And where will you sleep? There's an alcove 2 blocks down. I usually sleep there. It's protected from the wind. I looked at her. This elderly woman, barefoot until a few minutes ago, homeless, and she was still thinking about helping me. No, I said. We'll go to that shelter together. Both of us. She shook her head. The shelter only has 3 beds, and on New Year's, they're always full. It's better if you go. Then we'll sleep in the alcove together. No, dear. You. Marilyn, please. You gave me your company when I needed it most. Now let me give you mine. She looked at me intently, then smiled a smile full of gratitude and warmth. All right, Martha. We'll go together. We got up from the bench. I took my suitcase. Marilyn adjusted the sweater I had given her, and we started walking toward the alcove she spoke of. The streets were getting emptier. People were already inside, preparing their toasts. The 2 of us, on the other hand, were walking toward a cold doorway to spend the night. But something strange was happening. Despite the pain in my heart, despite Tyler's rejection, despite being homeless that night, I felt at peace. Because I wasn't alone. Because I had found someone who needed me as much as I needed company. We reached the alcove. It was the entrance to an old building with stone columns and a high ceiling. The floor was marble, cold but clean. There were pieces of cardboard stacked in a corner. This is where I sleep, Marilyn said. It's not much, but it'll shield us from the wind. We spread the cardboard on the floor and sat down. I pulled a blanket out of my suitcase, and we shared it. Fireworks began to explode in the sky. It was 11 p.m., 1 hour until the new year. Of course, Marilyn. Why did you help me? No one does. Everyone ignores me. Why didn't you? I sat there thinking, why had I done it? I didn't know exactly. Maybe because I had been rejected too. Maybe because I saw my own pain in her. Or maybe just because it was the right thing to do. Because you're a mother too, I finally said. And mothers shouldn't be alone on the street on New Year's Eve. Marilyn didn't say anything. She just took my hand and squeezed it hard. The minutes passed, and the fireworks grew more intense. In the distance, we heard shouts of joy, people toasting, people hugging. We were there, in that cold doorway, two women forgotten by the world, but we weren't alone. And in that moment, that was enough. Though I didn't know it yet, my life was about to change. Because sometimes, when you do something good without expecting anything in return, the universe sees you and rewards you in ways you never imagined. Midnight arrived with a roar. The fireworks lit up the sky like falling stars. Shouts of Happy New Year echoed through the city. People were hugging their loved ones, toasting with champagne. Marilyn and I looked at each other. She smiled sadly. Happy New Year, Martha. Happy New Year, Marilyn. We didn't have champagne. We didn't have grapes. We only had each other's company. And in that moment, it seemed to be enough. The fireworks lasted almost 20 minutes. Afterward, slowly, the noise began to fade. The streets grew silent again. The city fell asleep. We tried to sleep too. We huddled under the blanket, trying to keep warm, but the cold was piercing. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Tyler's face, his eyes avoiding mine, his hand closing the door. Can't sleep? Marilyn asked in the dark. Not really. Are you thinking about your son? Yes. There was a long silence. Do you know what the hardest part of all this is, Marilyn? It's not that he closed the door on me. It's not that he left me on the street. It's that he couldn't even look me in the eye. As if he were ashamed that I was his mother. Children get lost sometimes, Martha. They get lost in the world, in money, in appearances, and they forget what really matters. I gave him everything. Everything I had. I worked until my hands bled so he could study. I went without food so he could have new shoes. And now I'm an embarrassment to him. Marilyn sighed. A mother's love is the most selfless thing in the world, but also the most painful. Because children grow up and leave, and sometimes when they come back, they aren't the same people anymore. Did your daughter make you suffer, too? No. My daughter was always good to me, until the day she died. But I've seen many mothers suffer what you're suffering now. It's more common than you think. And what did those mothers do? Some forgave, others walked away, but they all kept living. Because that's what mothers do, Martha. We keep moving, even when our hearts are broken. We stayed silent. The cold was still biting. I huddled closer under the blanket. Marilyn, can I ask you something? Sure, dear. How did you end up on the street? She took a long time to answer. When she did, her voice sounded distant, as if she were remembering something very painful. I lost my husband 20 years ago. He was a good man, worked at a factory, made a good living. We had a modest house, but it was ours. When he died, I was left alone with my daughter. She was 30. She lived with me because she was sick, breast cancer. She stopped, taking a deep breath. I sold everything I had to pay for her treatment. The house, the furniture, even my wedding ring. I spent every dollar trying to save her, but I couldn't. She died in 2009 on her 35th birthday. I'm so sorry, Marilyn. When she died, I was left with nothing. No house, no money, no family. I tried to work, but I was old, no one would hire me. I ended up on the street, and I've been here ever since. I listened with a heavy heart. This woman had lost everything, absolutely everything, and yet she had the kindness to share her space with me. You're a very strong woman, Marilyn. I'm not strong, Martha. I'm just a survivor. There's a difference. Finally, we fell asleep, or at least I tried to. The cold made me wake up every half hour. I heard Marilyn breathing beside me. Her breath was irregular, as if she were struggling. The hours passed slowly. When dawn broke, New Year's Day arrived with a gray, cold sky. I woke up aching. My whole body hurt from sleeping on the ground. Marilyn was still asleep. Her face looked so tired, so fragile. I let her rest. I went out to the street. The city was empty, the streets filled with trash from the night's celebration, plastic cups, streamers, broken bottles. I walked aimlessly. I needed to think. I needed to decide what I was going to do. The next bus to my town left at 3 p.m. I had to get money for the ticket. I had to go home. But a part of my heart was aching. A part of me didn't want to leave. I didn't want to accept that my son had rejected me. I wanted to believe there was an explanation, that it was all a misunderstanding. I walked toward Tyler's building. I don't know why. Maybe I hoped that seeing it in daylight, under the sun, everything would look different. Maybe I hoped he would come down and tell me he was sorry, invite me in. I reached the building and stood on the sidewalk, looking up. Tyler's condo was on the 3rd floor. The curtains were closed. I waited there for nearly an hour. People started leaving the building, neighbors, families. They looked at me with curiosity, some with disdain. An older woman asked, "Are you lost, ma'am?" "No, I'm waiting for my son." "Does your son live here?" "Yes, on the 3rd floor." She looked me up and down. My wrinkled clothes, my messy hair. It was obvious I had spent the night on the street. "Ah," she said dryly, and walked away without another word. I kept waiting, but Tyler didn't come out. The curtains remained closed. Finally, around 10 a.m., I gave up. I went back to the alcove where I had left Marilyn. She was awake. She had folded the blanket and stacked the cardboard. "Good morning, Martha. Where did you go?" "Just for a walk." She looked at me intently, as if she knew exactly where I had been. "You went to look for your son, didn't you?" I couldn't lie to her. "Yes. And did you see him?" "He didn't come out." Marilyn hid. "Martha, listen to me. Sometimes we have to accept that the people we love don't want us close. As much as it hurts, as much as we don't understand it, we have to learn to let go. But he's my son, Marilyn. My only son. I can't just let him go. I'm not telling you to let him go. I'm telling you to stop chasing him. If he wants to come back to you, he will, but it has to be his decision. You can't force it." Her words hurt because I knew she was right, but I didn't want to accept it. Not yet. "I have to leave at 3 p.m., I told her. "The bus back to Georgia leaves then. Do you have money for the ticket?" "I'm going to sell the pies I have left. I hope I get enough." "I can help you sell them. I know a corner where a lot of people pass by." And that's what we did. We spent the next few hours walking the streets, offering the pie slices. Marilyn, despite her appearance, had a very kind way of talking to people. Some bought out of pity, others because they actually looked good. By 1 p.m., we had sold all of it. I counted the money, $60. Just enough for the ticket and some food for the trip. As I tell you this, I think about how many times in life we cling to people who no longer want us. Would you still wonder if you did the right thing? What would you have done in my place? Let me know in the comments. "Thank you, Marilyn," I said. "I couldn't have gotten this money without you." "You're welcome, dear. I'm glad I could help." We walked together to the bus station. We arrived at 2:30. My bus left in 30 minutes. I bought my ticket, then sat with Marilyn on a bench in the station. "Marilyn, I want to give you something before I go." I took $20 from my pocket and handed it to her. "No, Martha, that money is yours. Please, take it. You helped me so much more than you know." She took the money with tears in her eyes. "God bless you, Martha. You're an angel." "I'm not an angel. I'm just a woman who met another good woman at the moment I needed it most." We hugged. I felt her fragile body against mine, the smell of an old sweater and dust, but also her warmth, her humanity. "Take care of yourself, Marilyn." "You too, Martha. And remember, what you gave that old woman last night, the universe is going to return to you 10 times over. You'll see." I didn't understand what she meant. I was the only old woman she had met that night. Unless. But before I could ask, my bus was announced. "I have to go," I said. "Go on, dear." I took my suitcase and headed to the gate. Before entering, I turned one last time to wave to Marilyn, but she was gone. I looked for her all over the station. She had vanished. I felt a strange sensation in my chest, as if I had just lost something important, but I didn't have time to think. The bus was about to pull out. I got on and found my seat. I sat by the window. As the bus started moving, I looked back at the station, at the city that had rejected me, at the son who had closed the door on me, and I cried silently all the way home. What I didn't know was that my story with Marilyn was just beginning, and what she had told me was true. The universe was about to return everything I had given in the most unexpected way possible. I arrived back in my town on the evening of January 1st. The bus dropped me off at the main square, right in front of the church where I had married Robert so many years ago. Everything looked the same streets, the same trees, the same houses with their soft lights, but I was no longer the same. I walked the 3 blocks to my house. It was a small, one-story house with faded yellow walls. I had bought it with the savings of my entire life. I opened the door. The smell of stale air hit me. No one had been there for the 2 days I was gone. I dropped my suitcase on the floor, sat on the old couch in the living room, and stayed there in the dark, without even wanting to turn on the light. My mind wouldn't stop racing. I thought about Tyler, about Brittany, about the door slamming in my face. But I also thought about Marilyn, her sudden disappearance, her last words. "What you gave that old woman last night, the universe is going to return to you 10 times over." What old woman? What was she talking about? I had only helped her. No. It made no sense. Marilyn was real. She had eaten with me, slept beside me, sold pies with me. She was a person of flesh and bone. But then, why had she disappeared like that? The first days of January passed slowly. I didn't leave my house much. I didn't want to see anyone. My neighbors knocked on my door to wish me a happy new year. I thanked them from the doorway and went back inside. Mrs. Higgins, my neighbor of 30 years, got worried. "Martha, are you okay? You look thin. Have you eaten?" "Yes, Mrs. Higgins, I'm fine, just a little tired." "Did you go see Tyler for New Year's?" That question stung like a stab wound. "Yes." "And how is my boy?" "Such a good young man. He must be doing so well in Chicago." Everyone in town remembered Tyler as the good boy who went to the city to study. The pride of the neighborhood. "He's fine, very busy." "I'm sure he's already planning for you to move in with him, right? A boy that good won't leave his mother alone here." I didn't answer. I just smiled sadly and closed the door. On January 15th, I decided I had to do something. I couldn't stay shut in forever. I needed to work. I needed a distraction. I went back to the dry cleaners where I had worked for years. The owner, Carol, received me with open arms. "Martha, good to see you. Are you coming back to work?" "Yes, Carol, if you still have a spot for me." "There's always a spot for you. Start tomorrow if you want." And so I did. I went back to my old routine. I woke up at 5 a.m., went to the cleaners, laundered other people's clothes for 8 hours, came home tired, ate something simple, and went to sleep. But the nights were hard. In the silence, my mind wouldn't leave me alone. I thought about Tyler. I wondered if he was okay, if he missed me even a little, if he regretted closing that door. A part of me wanted to call him, to hear his voice, but another part, the part Marilyn had awakened in me, told me not to. If he wanted to talk to me, he had to take the first step. 2 weeks passed, then 3, then 4. February 15th arrived my birthday. I was turning 61. No one remembered, or at least no one called. Mrs. Higgins brought me a slice of cake left over from her grandson's party, but that was it. Tyler didn't call. Not a message, not a happy birthday, Mom. That night, I cried myself to sleep. I felt more alone than ever. But then, something strange started to happen. On February 18th, 2 days after my birthday, I was working at the cleaners when an elegant woman walked in. She wore a gray suit, high heels, and carried a leather briefcase. "Martha Miller?" she asked. "Yes, that's me. How can I help you?" "My name is Gwen Moreno. I'm an attorney. I need to speak with you. It's an urgent matter." My heart raced. A lawyer? What could a lawyer want with me? "Is it Tyler? Is he okay?" "It's not about your son, Mrs. Miller. It's about something else." "Could we speak in private?" I looked at Carol. She nodded. "Go ahead, Martha. I've got this." We left the cleaners. The lawyer took me to a nearby coffee shop. We sat at a table in the back. "Mrs. Miller, I am here representing a client who prefers to remain anonymous for the moment. This person has asked me to find you specifically. Find me? Why? My client was present on the night of December 31st in Chicago. She saw what you did. My blood ran cold. What did she see? She saw how you helped an elderly woman on the street. You gave her your sweater, your shoes, and shared your food with her. My client was very impressed by your kindness. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Someone had seen all that? I just did what any decent person would do. No, Mrs. Miller, most people didn't. My client was in that square for over an hour that night. She saw dozens of people walk past that old woman without even looking at her. You were the only one who stopped, the only one who offered help. And who is your client? The lawyer smiled. I can't reveal her identity just yet, but she asked me to give you this. She pulled a white envelope from her briefcase and handed it to me. I took it with trembling hands and opened it. Inside was a check. When I saw the amount, I nearly fainted. $10,000. This must be a mistake, I stammered. It's no mistake. My client wants to compensate you for your kindness, and this is only the beginning. The beginning? I don't understand anything. My client has a proposal for you, but first she wants to get to know you better. She wants to make sure you're the right person. The right person for what? The lawyer leaned forward. Mrs. Miller, how attached are you to this town? How attached are you to your current life? The question took me by surprise. It's my home. I've lived here my whole life. But do you have anything really tying you down? Close family? Important commitments? I thought about Tyler, but Tyler didn't want me near him. I thought about my neighbors, but none were truly close. I thought about my job, but it was just a job anyone could do. No, I finally answered. I don't have anything really tying me down. The lawyer smiled. Perfect. Then my client has asked me to ask you a very important question. Would you be willing to move to Chicago? To start a new life? Move? Why? My client needs a companion. She's an elderly person with no family, and after seeing your kindness that night, she believes you would be the perfect companion. A companion? Like a nurse? Not exactly. Like a friend, a confidant, someone to share her home with. My head was spinning. None of this made sense. And who exactly is your client? Why all the secrecy? She is a 75-year-old woman, a very wealthy widow. She has no children or close relatives. After seeing your act of kindness that night, she decided she wanted to meet you. 75 years old. A widow with no children. Something moved in my memory. A conversation. A soft voice in the darkness of a cold alcove. Marilyn, I whispered. The lawyer raised her eyebrows. So you've already met. Excellent, that makes things easier. But Marilyn was on the street, barefoot, homeless. No, Mrs. Miller. Marilyn was not homeless. Marilyn was testing you. Testing me? My client does this every year. She dresses as a homeless person and walks the streets during the holidays. She watches how people react to her, how many help, how many ignore. It's her way of finding genuinely good people in a world full of indifference. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Marilyn had been a test. Everything had been a test. And I passed the test? You didn't just pass it, Mrs. Miller. You were the only person in 5 years who offered her help without expecting anything in return. The only one who shared the little she had. The only one who treated her with dignity. Tears started rolling down my cheeks. I didn't do anything special. I just saw someone who needed help. Exactly. And that's what makes you special. Because most people see suffering and look away. But you didn't. You stopped. And now my client wants to reward you. I don't need a reward. I didn't do it for that. I know. And that's exactly why you deserve it. The lawyer pulled a folder from her briefcase. My client has asked me to offer you the following. A home in Chicago, in her own residence. A private suite, fully furnished, meals included, and a monthly salary of $6,000 for your companionship. $6,000. That was more than I made in 6 months at the cleaners. Why? Why would she do all this for me? Because she's alone. Because despite all her money, she has no one. And because in you, she saw something she hasn't seen in anyone else, a genuinely kind heart. I looked at the check in my hands. $10,000, money that could change my life. I need to think, I finally said. Of course. Take your time, but not too much. My client is anxious to meet you again this time, in her true identity. The lawyer stood up and gave me her card. Call me when you've made your decision. My number is there. She left, leaving me alone with a $10,000 check and a decision that would change my life forever. That night, I couldn't sleep. I turned everything over and over in my head. Marilyn. The test. The offer. Part of me wanted to accept. I wanted to leave this town. I wanted to start over. I wanted to feel like my life had a purpose beyond laundering other people's clothes. But another part was afraid. Afraid of the unknown. Afraid of leaving behind everything I knew. And then I thought about Tyler. If I went to Chicago, I would be closer to him. Maybe I could see him once in a while. Maybe we could fix things. Or maybe not. Maybe it was time to stop living for my son and start living for myself. I spent 3 days thinking. 3 days where I barely ate or slept. Should I accept? On February 20th, I finally made a decision. I called the lawyer. Miss Moreno, this is Martha Miller. Mrs. Miller. So good to hear from you. Have you made your decision? I took a deep breath. I accept. I want to meet your client. I want to hear what she has to say. I heard a smile in her voice. Excellent. My client will be delighted. Can you travel to Chicago this Friday? Yes, I can. Perfect. I will email you your bus tickets first class, and a driver will be waiting for you at the station to take you to my client's residence. Residence? Yes. My client lives in a very exclusive area of Chicago. The Gold Coast. You'll see, Mrs. Miller. Your life is about to change. We hung up. I stood there looking at the phone in my hand, still not believing what was happening. Carol gave me the time off when I explained I had to travel. I didn't tell her where or why. I just said it was something important. On Friday, February 23rd, I boarded the first-class bus. It was the first time in my life I had traveled like that. The seats were huge, with legroom to spare. They gave you free water and snacks. There was a TV at every seat. I felt out of place. The other passengers carried leather laptops and expensive phones. I was wearing my one decent dress, the same one I had worn to Tyler's graduation years ago. But I tried not to think about it. I tried to enjoy the trip. We arrived in Chicago at 2 p.m. At the station, just as the lawyer had promised, a driver was waiting for me, an older man in a black uniform holding a sign with my name, Martha Miller. Yes, that's me. Pleasure to meet you. I'm Henry. I'm here to take you to Mrs. Sterling. He led me to a large, shiny black SUV, a Cadillac. I had never been in a car like that. The interior smelled like new leather and expensive perfume. Henry drove for 20 minutes through streets I didn't recognize. We passed wide avenues lined with trees, modern buildings, elegant restaurants, and designer stores I'd only seen on TV. Finally, we entered a residential area. The streets were clean and quiet. There were security guards on every corner. The houses were enormous, with perfect gardens and high gates. We're almost there, Mrs. Miller, Henry said. My heart beat faster and faster. Suddenly, I was scared. What was I doing? Why had I agreed to come? I didn't know these people, but it was too late to turn back. The car stopped in front of a house, no, a mansion. It was 3 stories tall, made of gray stone, with massive windows and a garden that looked like it belonged in a magazine. There was a fountain in the center of the yard with crystal clear water sparkling under the sun. Henry opened the door for me. Go ahead, ma'am. They're expecting you. I got out of the car with trembling legs. I walked toward the main entrance. Before I could ring the bell, the door opened, and there she was, Marilyn. But she wasn't the Marilyn I had met on the street. This Marilyn wore an elegant beige dress. Her white hair was perfectly styled. She wore a pearl necklace and discreet earrings. She looked different, but her eyes were the same. Those wise eyes full of kindness. Martha, she said with a smile, welcome to my home. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there with my mouth open, trying to process what I was seeing. Marilyn came closer and hugged me. Forgive me for the deception, dear, but I needed to be sure. Sure of what? That good people still exist in this world, and you proved to me they do. She took my hand and led me inside. The house was even more impressive on the inside. Marble floors, elegant furniture, paintings on the walls, a grand wooden staircase. Come, sit. We have much to talk about. We sat in the living room. A maid brought us coffee and cookies. I couldn't stop looking around. It was like being in a dream. I suppose you have many questions, Marilyn said. Why? Was all I could say. Why pretend to be someone you aren't? Marilyn sighed. Because I've learned over the years that money changes people. When people know you have money, the way they treat you changes. You no longer know if they love you for who you are or for what you have. That's why, every year during the holidays, I disguise myself and go out to see how people treat me when they think I have nothing. But that's so sad. It is. But necessary. Do you know how many people have helped me in the last 5 years I've done this? Your lawyer said 3. Exactly 3. In 5 years. You are the 3rd. And the only one who shared the little she had without thinking twice. I didn't do it for money or a reward. I did it because it was the right thing to do. I know, and that's why you're here. Marilyn took a sip of her coffee. Let me tell you who I really am. My full name is Marilyn Sterling. I'm 75 years old. I've been a widow for 20 years. My husband, Arthur Sterling, owned a major real estate firm. When he died, he left me everything: the company, the properties, the investments. I became a very, very wealthy woman. She paused. But money doesn't give you happiness, Martha. It gives you comfort, yes. Security, yes. But it doesn't give you love. It doesn't give you company. It doesn't give you purpose. And your daughter? You told me you had a daughter. Marilyn's eyes grew misty. Yes, Sarah, my only daughter. What I told you that night was true. She died of cancer 15 years ago. She was 35. I sold a lot to pay for her treatment. Well, not everything, but a lot, and it didn't work. She died in my arms on the 26th of July 2011. I'm so sorry. Since then, I've been alone. Completely alone. I have no siblings. My parents died years ago. I have no nieces or nephews. I only have employees, lawyers, accountants, people who work for me, but don't really know me. Marilyn looked me straight in the eye. That's why I was looking for you, Martha, because when I saw you help me that night, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Genuine kindness, real compassion. And I thought, this is the person I want by my side. But Marilyn, I'm nobody special. I'm just a simple woman from a small town. I don't know anything about your world. Precisely why I want you here. Because you don't see me as a bank account. You see me as a person. She pulled an envelope from the pocket of her dress. Martha, I want to make you an offer, and I want you to think it over carefully before you answer. She opened the envelope. Inside were several documents. I offer you to live here with me in this house. You'll have your own suite, your own bathroom, 3 meals a day, clothes if you need them. A monthly salary of $7,000, not $6,000, like Gwen told you. I asked her to say less so I wouldn't scare you. $7,000. That was more money than I had ever seen at once in my life. The only thing I ask in return is your company. That you have breakfast with me, watch movies with me, tell me about your life. That we do what friends do. Because that's what I want, Martha. A friend, not an employee. A friend. Tears started streaming down my face. But Marilyn, I don't deserve all this. You are a good person, and good people deserve good things. Life hasn't treated you well, Martha. I saw it in your eyes that night. I saw the pain, the abandonment, the loneliness. We were 2 lonely women sitting in a cold alcove with no one to care for us. It's true, I whispered. But you don't have to be alone anymore. Neither do I. We can take care of each other. We can be the family we both lost. I stood up. I walked to the window. I looked at the perfect garden, the sparkling fountain, the clear blue sky over Chicago. I thought about my house in Georgia, the dry cleaners, the endless days of washing other people's clothes, the lonely nights in front of the TV, my forgotten birthdays. And then I thought about Tyler, how he had closed the door on me, how he hadn't called on my birthday, how he had treated me like a nuisance. Something inside me broke, but not from sadness, from liberation. I turned back to Marilyn. I accept, I said. I accept your offer. Marilyn smiled. She stood up, walked over to me, and hugged me tightly. "Thank you, Martha. Thank you for giving this lonely old woman a chance. Thank you, Marilyn, for seeing me, for seeing my heart when no one else did." We stayed in that embrace for what felt like an eternity. Two women who had lost everything. Two women who had found each other at the exact moment they needed it most. "When do you want to move?" Marilyn asked. "I need to go back home, settle my affairs, say goodbye to a few neighbors, quit my job. Give me a week. Take all the time you need. Henry will drive you back today and come get you whenever you're ready. Sound good?" "Yes, thank you." Marilyn showed me what would be my room. It was on the second floor. It was huge, larger than my entire house back home. It had a king-size bed with plush white sheets, a carved wooden wardrobe, a desk by the window, and a private bathroom with a separate tub and shower. "This will be your room," Marilyn said. "Your private space. You can decorate it however you want, bring your things, do whatever makes you feel comfortable." I couldn't believe my eyes. It was like a luxury hotel suite. It's too much. It's not too much. It's what you deserve. "And Martha, one more thing." She handed me another thicker envelope. "Inside is $20,000 in cash for you to settle your affairs back home. Pay off any debts, buy new clothes if you need them, whatever you want." "Marilyn, I can't accept this much money." "Yes, you can. And you will. Because I want to do it. Because I can. And because you deserve it." I took the envelope with trembling hands. I had never held $20,000 in my hands. I never imagined I would. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just promise me one thing." "What?" "That you'll be happy here. That you'll let yourself be happy. That you'll leave the pain behind and open your heart to this new life." I looked into her eyes and saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. "I promise, Marilyn." That afternoon, Henry drove me back to the bus station. Marilyn hugged me before I left. "I'll be waiting for you, Martha. This house will finally have life in it again." During the entire trip back, I couldn't stop smiling. For the first time in years, I felt like my life had a purpose, that someone wanted me around, that I mattered, but there was something that still hurt, a thought I couldn't get out of my head. Should I tell Tyler? Should I tell him I was moving to Chicago? Would he even care? Part of me wanted to call him. I wanted to say, "Look, son, my life changed. I'm no longer that poor mother you were ashamed of. I live with a wealthy woman now. I have money." But another part, the stronger part, told me no. If Tyler was capable of closing the door on me at my worst, he didn't deserve to know me at my best. And that part won. I decided I wouldn't tell him anything. I would move to Chicago without warning him. I would start my new life without him. Because sometimes loving someone means knowing when to walk away. It means understanding you can't force anyone to love you. It means having the dignity to move on, even if it hurts. I arrived home that night, walked into my house, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. My life was about to change for the better, and I was ready. The following 7 days were a whirlwind of emotions. I spent all Saturday organizing my life, deciding what to take and what to leave behind. I didn't have much old clothes, a few books, photos, memories. It all fit into 2 medium suitcases. On Sunday, I went to talk to Carol. "Carol, I need to put in my 2 weeks. Actually, I need to leave now." She looked at me, shocked. "Quit? Why, Martha? Did something happen?" "No, nothing bad. On the contrary, I'm moving to Chicago. I found an opportunity." "An opportunity? What kind?" I didn't want to give too many details. I didn't want the whole town gossiping before I left. "I'm going to work as a companion for an elderly lady. They're offering room and board, and it pays well." Carol nodded slowly. "I understand. Well, I'll miss you, Martha. You've been a great worker all these years." "Thank you, Carol. I'll miss you too." She paid me what she owed for the last week, about $400, money that now seemed like so little compared to what Marilyn had given me. On Monday, I went to the bank and opened a savings account for the first time in my life. I deposited the $20,000 Marilyn had given me. The bank teller looked at me with surprise when he saw the amount. "Where did you get this much cash, ma'am?" "It's a gift," I replied simply. I didn't give more explanations. I didn't have to. On Thursday, I started saying goodbye to my neighbors. Mrs. Higgins cried when I told her I was moving to the city. Alone, Martha? That's so dangerous. A woman your age. I'll be fine, Mrs. Higgins. I'll be with a good family. Don't worry about me. And Tyler? Does he know you're coming? That question hurt. No. And I'm not going to tell him. But Martha, he's your son. You should. My son slammed the door in my face on New Year's. Mrs. Higgins. He didn't call me on my birthday. He hasn't asked about me in months. I don't think he'll care much if I go or stay. Mrs. Higgins didn't say anything else. She just hugged me. On Friday, March 1st, Henry arrived to pick me up. I loaded my 2 suitcases into the car. I took one last look at my little yellow house, at the street where I had lived all my life, at the town that had seen me be born, get married, raise my son, and grow old. I didn't feel nostalgia. I only felt relief. It was a strange feeling, like I was dropping a weight I had carried for years. The trip to Chicago took the same 8 hours as always, but this time was different. This time I wasn't going to beg for my son's love. This time I was going toward a new life, a life I had chosen. We arrived at Marilyn's house at sunset. She was waiting for me at the door with a huge smile. Martha, welcome to your new home. She hugged me tight. And in that hug, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, that someone was actually happy to see me. Come, your room is ready. And I made dinner, your favorite apple pie and cider. Well, maybe not as good as yours, but I did my best. We went up to my room. It was exactly as I remembered it, large, bright, perfect. Henry brought up my suitcases. Take your time settling in, Marilyn said. When you're ready, I'll be waiting downstairs for dinner. I stayed alone in that huge room. I opened my suitcases and started taking out my clothes. They looked so old, so worn compared to the elegance of the room, but I didn't care. It was my clothes, my things, my life. I hung everything in the wardrobe. I put my photos on the desk. One of Tyler as a child, one of my wedding to Robert, one of my mother, who had died 10 years ago. I looked at the photo of Tyler for a long time, his childhood smile, his innocent eyes. When had he changed? When had he stopped being that boy who loved me unconditionally? I put the photo in a drawer. I didn't want to see it every day. I didn't want to be reminded of the pain every morning. I went down to dinner. Marilyn had set the table with fine china, cloth napkins, and crystal glasses. The apple pie was steaming on a porcelain platter. Sit, please, she said. Let's eat together. She asked me 1,000 questions about my life, my town, my memories. I answered everything, and for the first time in a long time, I felt that someone was actually interested in what I had to say. Tomorrow is Saturday, Marilyn said. I thought we could go shopping. You need some new clothes. And don't say no. It's part of the deal. Marilyn, you've already done too much for me. It's not enough. It'll never be enough to pay back your kindness that night. The next few days were like a dream. Marilyn took me to stores I had only seen in magazines, Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus. She bought me dresses, shoes, blouses, coats. I protested at every store, but she wouldn't listen. Let me spoil you, Martha. It's been so long since I had someone to spoil. She also took me to a high-end salon. They cut my hair, dyed it to cover the grays, and gave me a facial. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked different, younger, more alive. 2 weeks passed, then 3, then a month. My life with Marilyn was quiet but happy. We had breakfast together every morning. She told me stories of her life with Arthur, their world travels, her daughter Sarah. I told her about my childhood, my mother, what it was like raising Tyler alone. We became friends, real friends. There was no class difference between us, just 2 women sharing their lives. But there was something that made me uncomfortable. Every time Marilyn introduced me to someone, she introduced me as her companion. I knew technically I was, but the word made me feel lesser, like I was an employee. One day, in mid-April, I gathered the courage to tell her, Marilyn, can I ask you a favor? Of course, Martha, anything. Could you introduce me as your friend instead of your companion? I know I work for you, but... Marilyn interrupted me, taking my hand. Martha, forgive me. You are absolutely right. You aren't my employee. You are my friend, my family, and that is exactly how I will introduce you from now on. I smiled. I finally felt completely comfortable in my new life. But then, one day in May, everything changed. It was a Sunday, May 12th, Mother's Day. Marilyn and I had gone to brunch at an elegant restaurant near her house. We were eating eggs Benedict and drinking coffee when I heard a familiar voice. "Mom?" My blood ran cold. I knew that voice. I turned slowly, and there he was. Tyler. He was standing a few feet from our table, his eyes wide with surprise. Beside him was Brittany, looking at me with the same disdain as always. "Tyler," I whispered. He walked toward our table. He was looking me up and down, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. I was wearing one of the dresses Marilyn had bought me, a wine-colored silk dress, elegant but understated. My hair was styled, and I was wearing a silver necklace Marilyn had gifted me. I didn't look like the poor, haggard woman who had knocked on his door on New Year's. I looked different. What are you doing here?" Tyler asked. "I live here," I replied simply. "You live here in Chicago? Since when?" "Since 2 months ago." I could see the shock on his face, and something else, guilt, shame. "And why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you call me?" The question made me indignant. Why hadn't I called him? Was he seriously asking that? "And you, Tyler? Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call me on my birthday? Why hasn't your phone worked for 4 months?" He looked down. Brittany stepped forward, looking at me with contempt. "Martha, what a surprise to see you here. This restaurant is quite exclusive for someone like you." Marilyn, who had been silent this whole time, spoke for the first time. "Excuse me, and who are you to speak to Martha like that?" Brittany looked surprised by the tone. "I'm her daughter-in-law. And who are you?" "I am Marilyn Sterling. And Martha is my best friend. She lives with me in my home." Brittany's face changed. She recognized the name Sterling. Everyone in Chicago business circles knew that name. The Mrs. Sterling, the real estate mogul. Brittany went pale, looked at Tyler, then back at me. I didn't know you knew such important people." Marilyn smiled coldly. "Martha is more than important. She is one of the noblest people I have ever met, something you clearly cannot appreciate." Tyler intervened. "Mom, we need to talk, please." I looked at him. I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen in years. Fear of losing me, but not because of love, because now I had something he wanted. Connections, access to a world he aspired to. "We have nothing to talk about, Tyler. Please, Mom. I know things haven't been good between us, but—" "Haven't been good?" I interrupted. "Tyler, you slammed the door in my face on New Year's. You left me on the street with nowhere to go. And now you want to talk?" I'm sorry. Brittany and I had plans." "And what? Your plans were more important than your mother? More important than the woman who sacrificed her whole life for you?" People in the restaurant started staring at us. Brittany turned red with embarrassment. "Martha, please, don't make a scene," she whispered. "A scene? You made me feel like a nuisance, like a piece of trash. And now that you see I'm with someone important, now you want to talk to me?" Marilyn stood up. "I think it's time to go, Martha." I stood up too, taking my purse. "Mom, wait," Tyler said, grabbing my arm. I pulled my arm away. "You had 4 months to call me, Tyler. 4 months to apologize, to ask me how I was. But you didn't. And now it's too late. Don't say that. You're my mother. You'll always be my mother. I am your mother. But you stopped being my son that night." The words came out of my mouth before I could stop them, but the moment I said them, I knew they were true. I saw the pain on his face, but I didn't feel satisfaction. I only felt liberation. Marilyn and I walked out of the restaurant. Henry was waiting for us outside. We got in the car. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see if Tyler was watching us. I didn't want to know if he regretted it. During the whole way home, we didn't speak. Marilyn just took my hand and squeezed it tight. When we got to the house, she finally spoke. "Are you okay?" "Yes," I replied. "I'm okay. For the first time in a long time, I'm truly okay." And it was true. Because even though I had lost my son, I had gained something more important. My dignity, my peace, my freedom. That night I cried. I cried for the son I had lost, for the boy I had raised with so much love who was now a stranger, for the years I had wasted seeking his approval. But I also cried with relief, because I had finally closed that chapter of my life. I had finally let go, and even though it hurt, it also felt right. Several days passed after the encounter with Tyler. I continued my routine with Marilyn. But something had changed inside me. I no longer felt that weight in my chest, that constant anxiety about being a good mother, about being enough for my son. I had been set free. On May 18th, Marilyn called me into her study. It was a place I rarely went. It was on the first floor, filled with books, documents, and old photos. There was a large mahogany desk, and behind it, a portrait of Arthur, her late husband. "Sit down, Martha. I need to talk to you about something important." I sat across from her. Her expression was serious, but not sad. It was determined. "Did something happen, Marilyn?" "No, nothing bad. On the contrary, I want to talk to you about something I've been thinking about for weeks." She pulled a folder from one of her desk drawers. "Martha, I'm 75 years old. I've already lived longer than I expected. And even though I feel fine now, I know I won't live forever. No one does." "Marilyn, don't say that. It's not pessimism, dear. It's reality. And that's why I need to talk to you about my will." My heart sped up. "Her will?" "Yes. As you know, I have no family. My daughter is gone. My husband is gone. I have no siblings or nephews. When I die, everything I have will be left with no one. But surely you have friends, acquaintances." Marilyn smiled sadly. "Friends, Martha? When you have money, you never know who is truly your friend and who is just around for interest. That's why I do those tests every year, to find genuine people. And the other two people who helped me, do you want to know what happened to them?" "What happened?" "The first was a 22-year-old young man. I offered him the same as you, but as soon as he found out how much money I had, he started asking for loans, investments. He said he wanted to do business with me. I had to let him go. The second was a 40-year-old woman. She seemed sincere at first, but then I found out she was telling her whole family everything. They were planning. Well, I don't even want to think about it. I had to let her go, too." "That's terrible." "It is. But you, Martha, you've been with me for months and you haven't asked me for anything. Nothing but the salary you earn with your company. You haven't tried to manipulate me. You haven't brought family to ask for favors. You haven't." She stopped, taking a deep breath. "You haven't done what your son tried to do last week." I froze. "What?" "Tyler came to see me 3 days ago. He came alone, without his wife. He came here, to this house." "He came here?" "Yes. I told Henry to let him in, because I wanted to see what he wanted, and I already knew." "What did he want?" Marilyn opened the folder and took out a recording device. "I recorded our conversation without him knowing. I want you to listen to it. But I warn you, it's going to hurt." She pressed play. Tyler's voice filled the room. "Mrs. Sterling, thank you so much for seeing me. Don't mention it, Tyler. Tell me, what is the reason for your visit?" "Well, I want to apologize for how I behaved at the restaurant. It wasn't my intention to disrespect you." "You didn't disrespect me. You disrespected your mother." Silence. "You're right. And that's why I'm here. I want to fix things with my mom, but she isn't answering my calls." End quote. "And you think I can help with that?" "Well, yes. I thought maybe you could talk to her, convince her to give me another chance." Another pause. Then Marilyn's voice, cold. "Tyler, let me ask you a question. Why do you want to fix things with your mother now? Is it because you truly miss her? Or because you realized she has access to my social circle?" A long, long silence. I miss her. She's my mother." "Tyler, your mother spent 4 months without hearing from you. 4 months without a call. You didn't even call her on her birthday. And now, you miss her?" "I was busy with work, with Brittany. Too busy to call your mother, but not too busy to come to my house to ask me to intervene for you." "Mrs. Sterling, And let me guess. You also came to ask me about my relationship with your mother, to see if there's a business opportunity, an investment, some way to benefit from our friendship." Absolute silence. "Your silence says it all, Tyler." End quote. "Mrs. Sterling, with all due respect, My mother is a simple woman from a small town. She isn't used to this world. She could be vulnerable. People could take advantage of her. Marilyn's laugh sounded dry, humorless. People like you? No, I don't. Tyler, I'm going to tell you something that maybe no one has told you in your life. Your mother is an extraordinary woman. She has more emotional intelligence in her pinky finger than you have in your whole body. And no, she isn't vulnerable. She's strong. Stronger than you, that's for sure. I just want to protect her. You don't want to protect her. You want to control her. You want access to what she has now, my friendship, my connections, my money. But let me tell you something, boy. Your mother doesn't need your protection, and she definitely doesn't need your fake apology. I have a right to see my mother. You have a right. But she has the right to decide if she wants to see you. And so far, she has decided she doesn't. And I support her completely. This isn't over. Is that a threat, Tyler? No, I'm just saying she is legally my mother. Legally, you have no power over her. She is an adult woman in full possession of her faculties. So I suggest you leave my house and don't come back. You're going to regret this. The only thing I regret is not slamming the door on you sooner, just like you slammed it on her on New Year's. Footsteps. A door closing. End of recording. I was shaking. Tears were running down my face uncontrollably. I'm sorry, Martha. I know that was hard to hear. He only wants your money. He doesn't want me. I know, dear. And that's why I showed you. So you would have no doubts. So you would know you made the right decision by walking away from him. I covered my face with my hands. I cried not with sadness, but with rage, with disappointment, with a pain so deep it had no name. How could I raise someone like that? I whispered. At what point did he become this? Marilyn got up from her chair, knelt in front of me, and took my hands. Martha, listen to me. This is not your fault. You did everything you could. You gave him love, education, values. But people choose who they want to be. And your son chose money over love. That is not your fault. But he's my son, my only son, and he always will be. But that doesn't mean you have to accept his abuse. Sometimes the greatest love you can give is to walk away. We stayed like that for a long time. Her, kneeling in front of me, holding my hands, me, crying, letting out all the accumulated pain. When I finally calmed down, Marilyn sat back. That's why I want to talk to you about my will, because I've made a decision. She opened the folder again and pulled out several documents. Martha, I want to name you my sole heir. The world stopped. What? I want to leave everything to you. This house, my properties, my investments, my shares in the firm, everything. No. No. Marilyn, that's too much. I can't. Yes, you can, and you deserve it. In these few months, you've given me something I didn't have. Family, true company, unconditional love, and I want to make sure that when I'm gone, you have everything you need to live well for the rest of your life. But Marilyn, I don't need your money. I only need your friendship. I know, and that's exactly why I'm giving it to you, because I know you aren't looking for it, because I know you won't waste it, because I know you'll use it to do good. I shook my head. I can't accept this. It's my life, my work, my legacy, and I want it to be yours. But there is one condition. What condition? That when I die, you use part of that money to help women like you, older women who are alone, who were abandoned, who need a second chance. I want you to create a foundation in honor of my daughter, Sarah. I was speechless. Marilyn, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything now. Think about it. Talk to Gwen, the lawyer. Understand what this means. And then, if you still want to refuse, I'll respect your decision. But please, think it over carefully. Over the next few days, I met with Gwen. She explained everything to me. The magnitude of Marilyn's fortune, the properties, the stock portfolios. It was more money than I could ever have imagined. Mrs. Miller, do you understand that this would make you one of the wealthiest women in the city? Yes. And it terrifies me. Why? Because I'm a simple woman from a small town. I don't know anything about business or investments. You don't have to. That's what we're for, the lawyers, the accountants, the managers. You only have to make the final decisions, and I'll be here to guide you through everything. And if I ruin it all, you won't ruin it. Mrs. Sterling has seen something in you that's worth more than any college degree. Integrity, kindness, common sense. With that and the right team, you'll be fine. On May 26th, I made my decision. I told Marilyn I accepted. She cried with happiness. Thank you, Martha. Thank you for giving me peace. Now I know my legacy will be in good hands. We signed the papers that same day. Gwen handled everything. The will was recorded. I was officially the sole heir to Marilyn Sterling. But something else happened that day. Something I didn't expect. Marilyn handed me another document. What is this? It's a bank transfer for $200,000 in your name. $200,000? Why? Because I want you to have it now, while I'm still alive. I want to see you enjoy it. I want you to do whatever you want with it, travel, buy what you need, or just keep it. It's yours. No strings attached. Marilyn, this is too much. It's not too much. It's fair. And Martha, I want you to do something with part of that money. What? I want you to send some money to Tyler. I froze. What? Why would I do that? Because despite everything he's done to you, he's still your son, and I know a part of you still worries about him. Send him $50,000. No explanation, just send it. And then close that chapter forever. But after what I heard on that recording, exactly because of that, send him the money so he sees you, don't do it out of necessity. Send it because you are his mother, and even when he doesn't deserve it, you are a better person than he is. That, Martha, is moral victory, the only victory worth having. I thought about it all night, and finally, I decided to do it. On May 28th, I transferred $50,000 to Tyler. No message, no explanation, just the money. He called me 2 hours later. I didn't answer. He sent a text. Mom, what is this? Where did you get this much money? I didn't reply. He sent another. Mom, please, we need to talk. Forgive me. I didn't reply. Finally, he sent, I love you, Mom, and I'm so sorry for everything. I read it. I felt something in my heart, but it wasn't love. It was pity. Pity for my son, who had chosen money over everything else, who only knew how to say, I love you when it served him. I blocked his number. And with that gesture, I closed the chapter of Tyler in my life forever. That night, Marilyn and I had dinner together. We toasted with red wine. To new lives, she said. To second chances. To the women who get back up, I replied. To those who choose their dignity over their pain. We clinked our glasses. And in that moment, I knew I had made the right decision. I had lost my son, but I had gained a family, a mother who didn't give birth to me, but who chose me. And I had chosen her. And in this cruel world, that was more valuable than any blood tie. Months passed. June arrived with warm rain, July with intense heat, August with clear skies. I continued living with Marilyn, building a life I never imagined possible. But the world has mysterious ways of delivering justice. Even though I had decided to walk away from Tyler, the universe wasn't done with him. It was a Saturday in September, the 14th to be exact, when I found out what happened. Gwen came to visit. She had a strange expression on her face, a mix of concern and satisfaction. Mrs. Miller, I need to tell you something. It's about your son. My heart skipped. Did something happen to him? That depends on how you look at it. Tyler lost his job. What? When? 2 weeks ago. He was fired for misconduct. Apparently, he tried to use Mrs. Sterling's name to get contracts for his firm. He claimed he had deep connections with the Sterling family. His boss investigated, found out it was a lie, and let him go on the spot. I put my hand over my mouth. But that's not all, Gwen continued. Brittany left him. She found out Tyler had spent both of their savings trying to keep up appearances, expensive restaurants, designer clothes, a new Mercedes they couldn't afford. When she found out about the debt, she packed her bags and went back to her parents. She filed for divorce a week ago. I felt something strange. It wasn't joy. It was awe. The universe really was collecting its debts. And where is he now? He had to give up the condo. He couldn't pay the rent. He's staying with a friend, from what I hear. Marilyn, who had been listening in silence, spoke. Life has a way of teaching us lessons, doesn't it? Your son rejected his mother when she had nothing, and now that he has nothing, he's left alone. She was right. Tyler had closed the door on me when I needed him most, And now, when he needed someone, he had no one. Has he tried to contact you? Gwen asked. I blocked his number months ago. I don't know if he's tried. Probably. The weeks went by. October arrived with cool winds. And then, something unexpected happened. It was October 22nd. Marilyn and I were in the garden having tea when Henry approached. Mrs. Sterling, there's a young man at the gate. He says he's Mrs. Miller's son. He says he needs to speak with her, that it's urgent. My heart raced. Tell him to leave, I said immediately. Wait, Martha, Marilyn said. Maybe you should hear him out one last time, just so you have no doubts. I don't have doubts, but he does. Let him in. I'll be here with you. If he says anything inappropriate, Henry will escort him out. I hesitated, but finally nodded. Fine. Let him in. Minutes later, Tyler appeared in the garden. I barely recognized him. The confident, well-dressed man I had seen at the restaurant was gone. This Tyler wore worn-out jeans, a wrinkled shirt, and had lost weight. He had deep dark circles under his eyes. He looked defeated. Hi, Mom, he said in a raspy voice. Tyler stood there several feet away, as if he didn't know if he was allowed to come closer. Thank you for seeing me. I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. To close this once and for all. He nodded slowly. I understand. I came to apologize. To apologize? Now that you've lost everything? I know how it sounds. I know you think I only came because I'm in a bad spot, and maybe you're right. Maybe I am as selfish as you think. It's not what I think, Tyler. It's what you are. His eyes filled with tears. You're right. I swear if I could go back in time, I'd open that door on New Year's. I'd hug you. I'd let you stay. But you can't go back in time. And I'm no longer the woman who knocked on your door that night. I know, and I'm glad. You look good, happy, better than I've seen you in years. Because I finally found people who value me, who see me as a person, not a burden. Tyler looked down. Can I ask you something? Depends. Why did you send me that money months ago, $50,000 without a word? Because despite everything, you're still my son, and I wanted you to have something. But I also wanted you to understand that I don't need you, that I can be fine without you. Mission accomplished. You understood. I did, but that understanding came too late. There was a long silence. Mom, I didn't come to ask for money. I didn't come to ask you to save me. I just came to say, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was the worst son in the world. And if one day, in the future, you can forgive me, I'll be waiting. I looked at him. I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Genuine remorse. Or at least it looked like it. Tyler, I forgive you. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean things will go back to how they were. Because they can't. I know. I forgive you because I need peace. But I don't want you to be part of my life. Not now. Maybe never. He nodded. Tears were running freely down his face. I understand, and I respect that. Just take care of yourself, Mom, and be happy. You deserve it more than anyone. He turned to leave, but before he reached the gate, he stopped. Mom? Can I ask one more thing? What? That night, when you stayed on the street, what did you do? Where did you go? I looked at Marilyn. She smiled. I sat on a park bench, and I saw an elderly woman barefoot, shivering in the cold, and I decided to help her. I gave her my coat, my shoes, my food, and that decision changed my life, because it turns out that woman wasn't who I thought she was, and her kindness turned out to be greater than mine. Tyler looked at Marilyn. He understood. So, all this happened because of your heart, because your mother has a noble soul. Marilyn interrupted. Something you lost along the way. Tyler didn't answer. He just nodded and left. I watched him walk away through the garden. I watched Henry escort him to the gate, and I felt nothing. No pain, no rage, just peace. Because karma had done its job. Tyler had lost his job, his wife, his home, everything he valued more than his own mother. And I, whom he had rejected, now had everything. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. Poetic justice. Are you okay? Marilyn asked. Yes, I'm okay. For the first time in a long time, I am truly at peace. That night, as I got ready for bed, I thought about everything that had happened since that cold New Year's Eve. The rejection, the pain, Marilyn disguised as a homeless woman, all the decisions that had brought me here. And I understood something. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us are the doors to the best things. Tyler closing that door was the push I needed to find my true home, my true family. The universe has its way of balancing things, of rewarding kindness and punishing ingratitude. Tyler once called me a fool for helping strangers. Years later, that same act of kindness gave me a life he could never give me. Life always collects its debts. Always. It has been 8 months since that New Year's night. 8 months since my son slammed the door in my face. 8 months since a barefoot old woman changed my life forever. Today is a quiet November afternoon. Marilyn and I are sitting in the garden having coffee and watching the sunset. She has a photo album on her lap. Photos of Sarah, of Arthur, a life that no longer exists but lives in her memory. You know, Martha, sometimes I think Sarah sent you to me. Why do you say that? Because the day I decided to do that test on New Year's Eve, it was her birthday. December 31st. She would have been 49. I thought, I need to honor her memory by doing something good, by finding someone worthy of my legacy. And you found me. I found you. A woman who had just been rejected by her own son, but still had enough compassion to help a stranger. I smiled sadly. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gone to that bench. If I hadn't seen you, but you did go. You did see me. And that makes all the difference. She's right. One single decision, one single act of kindness, and my entire life changed. Marilyn, can I ask you something? Sure, dear. Aren't you afraid to leave everything to me? To trust me this much? She looked at me with those wise eyes. Afraid? No, Martha. I have peace. Because I know when I'm gone, my money will be in the hands of someone who will use it to do good. Someone who won't waste it on vanity. Someone who remembers where she came from. I'll keep my promise. I'll build that foundation for women in honor of Sarah. I know. That's why I trust you. We stayed in silence, watching the sun dip behind the city skyline. Martha, I've lived 75 years. I've had money and I've lost it. I've had love and I've lost it. I've had health and it's failed. But there is one thing no one has been able to take from me. The certainty that kindness always returns. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not the way you expect, but it always returns. You're right. I helped a stranger expecting nothing, and that stranger gave me a home, a family, a future. And your son, who had everything, lost it because he chose the wrong path. That is true justice. I've thought a lot about Tyler these months. Not with rage, not with sadness, just with understanding. I understand that people change, that money can corrupt, that children sometimes forget their roots. But I also understand that I can't live waiting for him to change. I can't put my happiness in the hands of someone who proved they don't value me. Last week, Mrs. Higgins called me from Georgia. Martha, your son was here asking about you. He wanted to know where you were. And what did you tell him? That I don't know. That you left months ago and didn't leave an address. Thank you, Mrs. Higgins. Martha, are you okay? Are you sure? That boy looked desperate. I'm more than okay. I'm at peace. And it's true. I am at peace because I finally understood that being a mother doesn't mean sacrificing yourself until you disappear. It doesn't mean accepting abuse because he's my son. It means giving love, yes. But it also means having dignity, boundaries, and self-respect. Tyler will have to find his own way, learn his own lessons, grow, and maybe one day, when he is a different man, we can talk. But that day is not today, and maybe it will never come, and that's okay, because my life no longer revolves around him. It revolves around me, around Marilyn, around this new family we've built together, around the plans we have, and the women we will help. The Sarah Sterling Foundation will open its doors in January. It will be a home for older women who are alone, who were abandoned, who need a second chance. We will give them a roof, food, emotional support, and above all, dignity. Because we all deserve dignity, regardless of our age or our past. Martha, what are you thinking about? Marilyn asks, pulling me from my thoughts. about everything that's happened, about how a terrible night turned into the beginning of something beautiful. Life is like that. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters. And what is it that really matters? Kindness, Martha. Only kindness. Everything else is temporary. Money comes and goes, beauty fades, health fails, but kindness remains. It carves itself into hearts. It multiplies. It becomes a legacy. She's right. My legacy won't be the money I inherit. It will be the kindness I was able to share, the lives I'll be able to change, the women who will find hope when all seems lost. The sun has set completely. The stars are starting to appear in the sky. Marilyn and I stand up to go inside. Thank you, Marilyn, I say. For everything, for seeing me, for choosing me, for giving me this life. No, Martha. Thank you for teaching me that good people still exist, for giving me back my faith in humanity. We hug, and in that embrace, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Belonging. Home. Family. If this story can help just one woman open her eyes, it will have been worth it. If it can help someone understand that they are not obligated to accept abuse from anyone, not even their own family, then all this pain had a purpose. I learned that blood doesn't always make family. True family is the one that chooses you, the one that values you, the one that sees you. I learned that it's never too late to start over. At 61, you can have a completely different life, better, fuller, and I learned that kindness always returns. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it returns. So if you are going through a hard time, if someone rejected you, if you feel invisible, if you think your life no longer has purpose, remember my story. Remember that a closed door can be the beginning of something extraordinary. Remember that your kindness is never in vain. And remember that you always deserve dignity, respect, and love. No matter your age, no matter your past, no matter how many times you've been hurt, you matter. And your story is still being written. Thank you for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. Subscribe to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman. A life lesson. God bless you. And until next time.